This is what I don't like about the property investment space. You've got young 21-year-old life coaches running around acting like they actually understand something. I just saw a video on TikTok that talked about the fact that I have a 5.5 mil investment property portfolio, and if I do nothing by the time I retire, I'm going to have $64 million because historically property over the last 50 years has gone up 6.7%. All right, this is the whole thing when we talk about stats on a graph, and a lot of the people that talk about this kind of stuff are the land cycle people that look at the land cycle and say, this happened 20 years ago, so it should happen in the next 1 to 3 years. All right, it happened then, it's going to happen now, and it's all in a cycle and it all follows everything, right? Well, look, I'm here to tell you that if you don't understand geopolitics and what's happening overseas, then you'll have no context on what's happening in Australia. All right. And if you haven't been in Australia for 20, 30, 40 years, seeing that every year it's gradually going down, the middle class is getting squeezed. All right. And then you're in a situation where there are a lot of topics that people can't talk about. You can't even notice the trend of what's happening in a country because people will call you an ist or a phobe. But I don't really mind talking about these kind of topics because there's a lot of great people from a lot of different areas and cultures, right? But you have to be able to talk about what's happening in every single Western country all at the same time to be able to understand the framework and the direction that the country is going in. All right. And the two words that you need to understand are the two words managed decline. Okay. They want GDP to go up. And if we didn't have 2+ million people coming into Australia over the last kind of 4 to 6 years, we would have been in a recession probably 4 years ago. So they've been masking it with huge immigration. All right. Now, when you look at it from that kind of framework and the fact that they care about GDP going up, they don't care about GDP per capita, you understand why the middle class is getting squeezed. You're the frog in the boiling pot. Every year it's getting worse. Okay, your areas are changing, your demographics are changing, the crime is going up, and this is happening in every single Western country at the same time. Go and have a look at Europe, go and have a look at the UK, go and have a look at Canada, go and have a look at New Zealand, go and have a look in America. It's all happening at the same time. All right, then you've got to figure out where is the money flowing? So the big money, the old money, especially in the UK, is selling out of main cities and going into the regions. Why? Because most likely in the next 5, 10, 15 years, you're already starting to see it kick off with civil conflicts and problems with different people with different viewpoints from different places in the world. Right? I'm not sure if it's going to happen here in Australia or not. I hope that, if something happens in Europe or UK, Australia stays out of it. But a lot of the time we don't because these are countries that normally we ally with. So either we send our armed forces over to help or the civil conflicts come to Australia. It may happen. So I don't live in the 100% chance that it's not going to happen, but you cannot deny the amount of social decline, economic decline that a lot of these countries are happening across Europe and UK. And look, Australia and Canada aren't very far behind. And now you look at the residential prices in a lot of these places. London's down about 25% over the last 4 years. Canada, main cities are down 20 to 30%. New Zealand main cities are down 20 to 30%. And a lot of people think that this is just going to be a blip on the radar and then everything comes roaring back, right? My belief is a little bit more that it's going to be more of like a 2 to 4 year process and then something is going to happen. So I think it's going to be more like a 2008 scenario where you have two lots of flowing events. And a lot of people don't realize that the only reason why Australia did so well during the GFC is because China was our backstop and they were still booming. Well, I'm here to tell you that China is not booming at the moment. All their banks have collapsed and rolled up into their other banks. All of their real estate in the main cities are off 40 to 60%. Second and third tier cities are off 60 to 80%. All right. They're living on life support over in China, and it's been happening progressively over the last 4 to 5 years. So they're not going to backstop us in the next recession. And if you want to look at the GFC, Australia and our banks got through it really well. We just had a little bit of a mining correction compared to the rest of the world. So we didn't even really have our GFC. And potentially that's going to be hitting us in the next couple of years. And the fact that we didn't have a hard one back then, we might have a harder one this time. So it's all a percentage chance, right? And you've got to prepare yourself for these kind of things. Now, do you think that I'm completely negative about the country? No. I think that Australia is one of the few countries that we can just put our finger on the immigration button consistently for the next 50 years and keep on having huge amounts of growth, right? But to not talk about the negative impact on society and culture and main cities, because there's a heck of a lot of people that have left Melbourne because they don't like what's happening with the state government. But then now you're having all the cultural and societal issues and the crime issues in Melbourne. All right, I can't remember going around in South Sydney and going up to a Westfields and seeing gangs of youths with machetes having machete attacks, but that's happening in Melbourne, right? What do you think is happening to property prices in Europe right now, across Brussels, in Belgium, across the no-go zones in Sweden, and a lot of these areas that are having all this knife crime and sectioned off areas of London? What do you think's happening to the property prices in those locations? They were once the blue chip locations where property went amazingly for 50 years. But then you got these kids that talk about 50 years backwards means 50 years forwards, right? So look, I think commercial is going to do exceedingly well over the next 50 years because, if you keep on pumping the country with, a million or 400,000 worth of immigration and then another 2 million of side visas and all these different visas for temporary work and non-permanent workers. Sometimes we've got over 2 million people on different forms of visas here. I think commercial is going to do exceedingly well in a lot of different locations, even through a managed decline setup. But when you're talking about, the fact that Bondi's gone through the roof, and suddenly, all these kids are coming out of university that used to be getting these 100 and 200 grand a year jobs, and now with AI, there's no jobs. So how does Bondi go from 2 to 4 and 4 to 8 and 8 to 16 under a managed decline setup? It doesn't work that way. Now, I don't know if we're going to go through, a 4-year kind of reset structurally of our debt levels and our currencies and our CBDCs and our digital ID. Probably that's going to occur because all the framework and logistics are coming across all the Western countries. But that kind of thing is not going to affect, the level of immigration that we've had and all the societal and culture change issues that a lot of these Western countries are having. And just to be clear, there's a lot of really good people from a lot of different areas. I'm in a biracial household with a Filipino, biracial marriage, biracial household, right? So you need to understand these kind of setups and the impact that they're going to have long term on the country, and if they're a good thing or a bad thing. And I'm not here to be a pessimist, but if you're just looking at a dot on the graph and thinking it's going to repeat over the next 50 years, I think you've got a long, hard wait and a long, hard period to go through over the next couple of years to realize that that's not going to happen.